Hello everybody, and welcome back to another show. Today we are once again in Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duels, where I'll be showing off a budget deck that I've been using throughout the Wind and Water event currently going on. So, as I was looking for cards to originally use for this deck, as everyone and anyone has been either using Fish, Ice Barrier, or Speedsters, which granted are the lone decks that you are given, I wanted to build something unique, as again I don't really tend to like using meta decks. And then I happened to find out that when I was searching what water and wind cards I had, I just so happened to have both the URs of the Rikka Queens, so Teardrop and Sterna? I believe that's how it's said. So at that point I was like, well, I guess I'm building a Rikka deck. And so I looked around for kind of different suggestions. As you can see, I've only got one copy of each, and most of the decks I was looking at did recommend to at least carry two, which to be fair is what I would also recommend. But again, we'll try to keep this on the budget side. I do have both this deck is the one that I'm currently using, but also the one that I was originally using, which is much cheaper than this variant, which I will show off in just a second. But we've got a few tuners just to help us potentially get out these synchro cards. And then everything else is played to ideally get out our boss monsters, or at least our hard hitters. Kaiju is in here just to help tribute a enemy's monster that may be a problem, but also does fit with the theme of this deck, which is, for people that don't know, is tributing. The Rikka's field spell, this one, allows you to once per turn, anytime you want to make a tribute, as long as you control a Rikka card, as long as you control a plant monster, you are allowed to tribute an opponent's monster instead. But that was what I'm currently using. If I go into my budget deck, you'll see that overall it's not too demanding. You will be looking at about 15 SRs, which is quite a lot, but there are some changes you can make to decrease the cost further. So that's a total of 450 SR. And then as for URs, you only need 4, which are both of the Rikka Queens, a Sylvan card? I'm going to pronounce so many of these wrong, I apologize. And then finally, our Soul Sword Supreme. But there are some cards in here that you can take out if you are looking to decrease the cost a bit more. For example, in the extract wise, you don't really ever play into the synchros. The only one that I would recommend trying to get is Coral Dragon, just so you have some removal when you need it, especially on the back row, because this is one problem that I've had with this deck. So ideally, I would say you would realistically only need this for your extra deck, so we can already take out one UR. As far as the SRs go, you can get away with taking out the Kaiju, but it does help in certain situations. Same with Therian Lily. Again, a good strong monster to have, especially as another level 8 monster that helps in potentially synchroing, or not synchroing, XYZing into Teardrop. And also, the Droll, again, it's a give or take. If you have it, you can put it in. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. And as well, I want to just keep this as low as possible, but if you do have cards like Call of the Haunted or Imperm, obviously add those in if you can. Alright, so I'll be showing off a few duels that I've had throughout the current event, all of which, apart from one, are versus very meta decks that you'll be seeing there at the moment. So this will just give you an idea of how this particular deck fares up against them. You can use the timestamp down below to skip to any part of them. But hey, let's get on to the duels. So, on to our first duel. I believe this is up against an Ice Jade / Ice Barrier deck. So we'll get a decent hand to start off with. Luckily we do have Rikka Glamour, which will allow us to search for one of our Rikka cards. And we are going to grab our starter, Petal, which allows us to search for another Rikka card which we can then use to tribute it away. And then essentially just keep popping effects. Now, a slight misplay happens here on my part. So Mudon is going to grab the field spell, which we would ideally always want on the field, as that is what's going to allow us to start tributing away our opponent's cards. However, I should have kept Pramila in my hand so that I could have used Snowdrop's effect, which is, as long as I'm holding another plant monster, I can special summon both it and that card in my hand onto the field. However, I'm going to jump the gun and accidentally activate Pramila's effect too soon. We do grab the field spell though, but now seeing that I can no longer go into Snowdrop, which would have allowed me to grab our Teardrop Queen, I'm instead going to go into Kenzeshi. And then I'm going to use the field spell's other effect, which allows us to search for a spell or trap. We'll pop Tranquility to get Petal back out, because for whatever reason, when you activate the effect, you contribute one plant monster. Now, whenever it says that, if you have the field spell active, you should be allowed to tribute an opponent's monster. However, I can only ever seem to get it to proc properly like 30% of the time, so I'm not sure if there's something I'm missing there. But ideally, I was trying to tribute this away, but the card effect didn't work and only let me special summon Petal back to the field. So now they're going to start flooding their board, as you see, always with both Ice Jade and Ice Barrier. But I'm going to use this chance to at least try and fill up my board a bit more, just in case he goes for the offensive. Just try and build up a strong kind of backbone. But they are going to start synchronizing into both their boss monsters, which I'm pretty sure everyone who's been playing this event are maybe a bit sick of seeing. So we are just going to be left with Petal. However, because we have been losing plant monsters, our World Tree spell card has been gaining counters, which when it hits 2, we're allowed to target one card and destroy it. However, they, I believe, are going to negate the effect. Yep. So we're going to use our field spell to pop another glamour card so that we can search our deck for another card later on. Spiritual Force, that if one of our plant monsters get attacked, it's not immediately destroyed in battle. So, they are going to proc their Lancia card effect, which is when it's sent to the graveyard, they can essentially use it as synchro material to summon another monster. I am, in turn, going to essentially remove everything on my side of the field to negate it, thanks to, if I can find them, they are apparently nowhere. But my Rikka Princess's effect, which is I can shuffle it back into the deck, which is where it's gone to, in order to negate an effect, but I have to also tribute one plant monster. Luckily, I was also able to grab Lord Poison from Glamour's effect, which in turn, when it's destroyed in battle and sent to the graveyard, allows me to special summon one plant monster from my deck. So we'll pop our final Glamour one more time and use our Field Spell's effect to get rid of one of his synchro monsters. And essentially start to fill up our hand as Petal searches for yet another card. And now we can actually use Snowdrop's effect proper. Send itself and another card onto the field before also setting Princess. Then we pop Snowdrop's effect, which allows us to turn every monster on the field to a selected level. I chose level 8. We bring out our XYT card, use its effect to increase its attack and clear their side of the field. And then I throw down a draw face down, just to, again, toughen up the backboard and, you know, keep them guessing. And at that point, they kind of ran out of steam and forfeited. So yeah, that was duel number 1. On to the next one. So next we are up against a Majespecter deck, which is something that I've seen a fair bit throughout here, but it's also one of the rare decks I've gone up against. Just like the Rikka deck, actually. I've not had the mirror match yet, even though I've had some people say that they have been going up against it, and I have seen some talk in places showing off their particular decks. But I've not come across it, which is kind of sad. I really do want the mirror match before the event ends. So one thing you'll also notice is that the decks that I'm using throughout these videos are kind of constantly changing. For example, I no longer run Deep Sea City, just because I'd rather have a third copy of the actual Rikka field spell. And also, I just don't really get much use out of Deep Sea. It's kind of helpful, but it's personally not great for me. So the board's pretty even at the moment, but unfortunately we didn't get to use Rikka Petal's effect. And so now we do just have a 0-0 on the field, who is just asking to get punched. But they're just going to grab a bunch of Majespecter cards, start proccing their effect. It's not really an archetype that I'm all too familiar with, so apologies for the commentary. So I used the Rikka Fairy's effect here, one, to just try and toughen up our Petal a bit so we're not taking as much damage, but also I just wanted to get it into the graveyard to potentially use it later, which we get just then. And thankfully, because one, it was in defense, but two, because we had Spiritual Forest, we take no damage, and also we get to keep it on the field. So once again, we use our field spell in order to not only tribute one of their monsters, but grab a monster of our own. Luckily, if we have multiple cards of the same level, we get to add more than one copy to our hand. So after increasing them both to level 6, we summon out one of our Rikka Queens once again. Grab a few extra cards. Oh no, I am looking at what they have in their hand. Ah, I see what I'm up to. I'm trying to just get rid of everything. Leave no possibilities for them. But we go directly. Take out a decent chunk of life points, but they're going to pendulum summon. And I believe they get a decent amount of their board back, if I remember correctly. Once again, still linking into new. Filling up their hand a little. I'm just waiting. I'm like, come on, buddy. I want to tribute your monsters away. However, I'm going to try and use my effect that whenever a monster is tributed, by detaching some material, I can special summon something from the grave. However, it gets negated. Because it was also then going to try and be destroyed, I did send away my other card in order to prevent that, but he procced another effect, which effectively just cleared out the board. We do top deck a Petal here, which is very helpful, though if I didn't grab it there, I would have just grabbed it off the Glamour. So using both Glamour and Petal's effect, I'm able to meet the requirements in order to special summon Snowdrop back onto the field. And then after grabbing a trap card, I'm going to set all of these into, once again, our 3200 plant monster, which you may just notice is the exact amount of damage we need for lethal. And for a normal card, that card actually does come in quite useful a lot of the time. But yeah, so that's duel number 2. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, on to duel number 3, and I believe we are up against, once more, Ice Barrier. You love to see it. It is everywhere. And the one thing why I use replays, like I'm pretty sure a lot of other people do when they make YouTube content for these videos, is that, you know, some decks play pretty slowly, and I've noticed that with Ice Barrier. Their turns can, I feel like, take up the full 5 minutes most of the time. So once again, we are going to get negated right away, but luckily our Rikka Fairy is pretty sturdy defense-wise. However, I'm apparently able to actually pop off something and bring out Snowdrop. Set the other two to level 8 and bring out our boss monster, Teardrop the Rikka Queen. Which, at any point as a quick effect, I can detach one material and tribute any monster on the field. Now granted, I've not learned the best timing of when to proc this effect with Rikka Queen, as you're about to see here. I just assumed, I'll grab it off their first monster, hang on, they've got a graveyard effect, but wait, so do I. So I'm going to use Rikka Princess to send away Snowdrop and negate their effect. We do grab 200 attack points, I believe, every time we tribute away a monster as well with Rikka Queen. And so that does actually put a stop to their play, which I think just shows that maybe they didn't have the best of hand at the time, because I'm pretty sure I've done this in other situations, and they've still just been able to flood the board by the end of their turn. As always though, we want to always grab the field spell as quickly as possible with this deck, as it just gives us one extra tribute that we get to play. And so we're finally going to bring out our other Rikka Queen. And after getting rid of some material, we're going to bring back Snowdrop, just so we can potentially get a few more summons out when we need to later on. And then after attacking directly, we end our turn. And so, okay, so here, you know, me being a classic Yu-Gi-Oh player, did not read the effect, just once again, pulled the trigger too soon. I'm still learning. But yeah, I was just like, get rid of their immediate summon. Wait a minute, this card can't be targeted. But see here, it says monster effects. Keep that in mind. It's still a misplay, but we're not quite out the game just yet, despite the amount of cards they're starting to play. So this time, I use Princess's effect. But instead of tributing one of our own monsters, I'm able to tribute that one that negates any Ice Barrier monsters from being hit with effects. And there's Lancia once more, the bane of my existence throughout this entire event. So we do take some damage here, but the World Tree is stacking up points. However, they do have quite the formidable board at this point. So first, we're going to use Snowdrop's effect to tribute one monster. In this case, his own Synchro monster, thanks to our field spell. We'll then use the World Tree to get rid of his Lancia, however its effect will proc and allow him to Synchro Summon another monster from his extra deck. But we're still not done. Petal will allow us to grab a second Princess, set them all to level 8 thanks to Snowdrop, and bring out our 3200. As at this point he has nothing that can attack over it. We end there with one card face down as well, just ready to activate. And in this situation, it works. So thankfully, I'm allowed to use it to not only tribute his monster, but then special summon two of my own. I then proc an effect that allows me to negate any activations of any back row cards. And we end our turn with, you know, pretty good build. And luckily I did negate that because it was an imperm. So now we're allowed to just freely cast effects where we want to. finally bring out, I believe, our first Link summon of this video, though I might be mistaken. And we get a bit unlucky here, as this card allows us to essentially look at the top 3 cards of our deck, and then if we get any plant monsters, we're allowed to special summon them to the field. However, we did lose our Crossout and Imperm. But at this point, we have more than enough damage on the board to just go for game. And so yeah, we can win against Ice Barrier on this, but it is very situational. But with that, let's move on to our final duel. And so to end things off, we have a rather short duel against a fish deck. Mostly I'm adding this one here because, like I said, I wanted to kind of, you know, show off how this can go against the current meta in this event. So I actually do hold Mark of the Rose here, which is something that I've kind of taken in and out of the deck at this point. I would recommend it for the budget version, if that's what you want to use. Essentially, on your turns, you can take control of one monster your enemy controls, but once the turn switch back over, they regain control. Once again, we do get turn 1 Impermed. However, they use it on the Princess, which is a little bit of an early gun on their part, as we're then allowed to bring out Petal in order to, once again, try and just get our field spell out as soon as possible. But that too will be negated. So we'll take that opportunity to Link Summon, and once again look at the top 3 cards of our deck, and if we grab any monsters, we can summon them to the field. And we get incredibly lucky this time. We bring out both our level 6s. And go into Kenzashi. Place Mark of the Road face down, and we swap turns. They'll try and activate a banishment effect, however we will once again negate this, thanks to Rikka Princess. Remove some material and special summon. Again, just a 1, get material back on the board, but also get something with a pretty decent defense on the field. There's another situation where the trap card, for whatever reason, wouldn't let me tribute a monster. I guess it must be during the attacking phase. I'll have to reread the card in a bit more detail. However, he'll link away into a Beastkeeper. Attack being that just kind of shows me that, I think he's kind of run out of steam at this point. And we also have a pretty good board, so just to be safe though, you know, there may always be a little hidden effect able to pop off here or there. Flood the field, get them all to level 8, and bring out good old Teardrop. And we're just going to attack the game. So yeah, the Rikka Queen, it's a very, I don't know, I'd say unique playstyle. You essentially want to just focus on tributing your enemy monsters when you can. Obviously, you just need a bit more kind of know-how than what I have when compared to what you need to do in order to get this particular deck to work. But yeah, I hope that's given everyone a bit of an insight on what you can do if you're looking for cheaper decks to play throughout the rest of the event. So let me know what you think down below. And until next time everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show.